الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونصلي ونسلم على خاتم الرسل وسيد الخلق محمد بن عبد الله على آله وأزواجه وأصحابه ومن تبعه بإحسان أفضل الصلاة وأتم تسليم اللهم اجعلنا منهم. All thanks and gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salah and salam on the Prophet Muhammad, on his followers, on his family, his wives, his companions, and may Allah grant that we continue to be one of them. So the last couple of weeks we spoke about hypocrisy, and we said that hypocrites are two types. There's the hypocrites of belief. Simple, it's easy, it's an easy definition. You don't believe in Islam, you don't believe in hell, you don't believe in heaven, you don't believe in punishment, you don't believe in Day of Judgment, you don't believe in Sayyidina Muhammad, you don't believe in Islam. But you're not saying it out loud, you're just hiding it. And Allah's response was, there's no compulsion religion. No one's forcing anyone to become Muslim. You don't want to be a Muslim, don't. There's no punishment, no one's going to punish you for that. And the other one, which is a hypocrite in his deeds. And we spoke a bit about the meaning of that and examples from last week. Now, since then, I've been having discussions with many of my fellow brothers and elders. And I'm going to continue on the same vein today, inshallah, but I want to expand it a bit. So we said that hypocrisy, or as we call it in Arabic, nifaq, and iman, which is belief, are two opposites. Now, I'm not talking about the hypocrisy in belief. We're talking about the other hypocrisy, which is the bad deeds that you do, which result in getting attributes or getting giving the sifat, what's sifat in English? Sorry? Characteristics, thank you, brother. Characteristics of a full-blown hypocrite, which is like lying, cheating, not being honest, breaking your word, all that stuff. Okay? And the companions were very fearful of that one. So, before I continue with that, I wanted to step up. It sounds like a different topic, but it is related. I'm going to talk slightly about the meaning of the word Sharia. What is Sharia in Islam? And what is Sharia? What's the purpose of Sharia in Islam? Sharia as a word comes from the root Arabic word shara, which means legislate. And that's why in any Arab world we call a legislator musharra, someone who creates a law. So Sharia is, in other words, in fact I'm going to use this good example, not just the laws, but the processes. Let's start with the top, the principles, the processes, the policies, the standards, the guidelines, ways of working. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? That a Muslim should follow. That's what Sharia is. Guess what? That's what we do at work. That's what a government does. In fact, that's what we do at home. A simple example. I've got a principle, call it a law, a principle at home. No smoking at home. You don't smoke at home. Even a builder comes in, sorry, you want to smoke? Outside. No, don't smoke. I'm not going to prevent you from smoking, but not on my premises. Stay outside. So we all implement these. Now, understanding that, it's no longer the scary word that you read in the media. It's simple. It's, in fact, in line with the meaning of Islam. Islam is a way of living your life. That's what Islam is. Allah is giving us guidelines to live our life satisfied, to live our life in happiness, in this world and the next. So, understanding those principles, those policies, those procedures, those processes, And the process is as a good example, you want to pray. What do you do to pray? To pray, I have to have wudu, I have to be pure, I have to wash before. And there's things you do. You have intention, you wash your hands first, then you wash your face 3 times, and so on and so forth. That's a process, isn't it? And then there's a decision, isn't there? If you break during prayer, if you pass wind or break your purity, then you have to go back. Are you still on wudu? Yes. You carry on praying. No, you go back. That's a process. That's what we do at business. That's what we do in work. I'm sure most, if not all of us, have seen something similar. We actually do that so that the companies or the government or the countries live a good and are successful and move forward. That's in line with what Islam is. And that is what Sharia is. Understanding what Sharia is as a meaning, what is Sharia trying to protect? What is it? What's its purpose? What is it trying to achieve? What is its objectives? The milestones, so that all the principles and all those guidelines and standards and policies are built upon. It's trying to do 5 things. And you will notice that all the sins that we talked about last Jum'ah, making you a hypocrite, is breaking one of those objectives. What are they? Let's start. First thing, I'm going to say them in Arabic and I'm going to translate them in English. حفظ المال, حفظ الدين, حفظ النفس, حفظ العرض, and حفظ العقل. Let's translate those. Let's start by حفظ المال. حفظ means protection. Protecting your money. Protecting your finances. Hence, Allah put rules, put halal and haram on how to gather money and how to spend money. I can't go deal drugs and then spend money on charity. There's a lovely story about one of the people that came after the companions. We call them Tabi'een. So they didn't see the Prophet, but they're the first, second, third generation after the Prophet. He was walking the streets, two of them walking together. And then he passed in the market and he saw someone selling fruit. He shoplifted an apple. Just put it in his pocket. And the guy next to him was like shocked. What's going on? And then a couple of steps later, he saw a poor person. He took the same apple and he gave it to him. So I said, what have you just done? He said, oh, well, hang on. I stole. That's one sayyah. That's Allah's going to punish me once. One sayyah. I gave a charity. That's 10 hasanat. What's 10 minus 1? 9. So I'm in the positive. So the man next to him said to him, you stole. You got to say yeah. You gave a charity, it's not accepted because you got the money from a haram source. End of story. So it's how you gather money, how you spend money, how you store money as well. Spending money is the same thing. If I spend my money, and by the way, when we stand in front of Allah, Allah's going to ask us on certain things. He's going to ask us on your wealth, where you got it from, how you spent it. And it doesn't stop when we die. That's why it's very important to write a will. In fact, Sayyidina Muhammad said, any believer in Allah and in the Day of Judgment, before he sleeps, should write a will. You should never sleep without a will under your pillow. Or in our terms, just have something stored safely. That can be referred to. Even though you're dead, you still have to say how your money is. And Allah guided us on how to do that. So your wealth, your health, have you taken care of your health? And I'm possibly one of the most guilty ones on not taking care of health, exercising, going to the gym. You look at that as a secondary thing. That's core and parcel of Islam. You should be healthy. Your spare time, you're going to be asked about that Day of Judgment. So حفظ المال, that's number 1. Second, حفظ النفس, protection of the soul. Hence, anything leads to harm is haram. We've got a principle in Islam called لا ضرر ولا ضرار. What is that meaning? It means anything that results in harm is haram. They didn't have drugs in the Prophet's time. They didn't have cocaine or heroin, but it's haram. We know it's haram. Not because the law says it's haram, it's because it's harmful for your health. In fact, that's why poison is harmful for your health. That's why eating too much is harmful for your health. Anything that harms your health becomes haram straight away. So if you take too much sugar and you've got a disease that causes you, I'm not sure if it's diabetes, but whatever the disease is that causes you harm when you take sugar, then taking sugar that will result in your harm is haram. You shouldn't do that. You will get a sin for that. Simple as that. Nafs, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade us from not just harming yourself, harming your brother or your fellow Muslims. Or that's why murder's haram, or anything resulting in murder's haram. That's why suicide's haram, and so on and so forth. Third one, we said al-mal and we said al-nafs, al-ard. Ard in Arabic has got several meanings. This means one, protection of your lineage, protection of your position, protection of your honor. Hence, I get behind a brother's back and I say bad things about him, true or untrue, it doesn't matter, so that his honor is his position in around the people stop looking at him horribly. That's haram. Lineage, that's why having any relationship outside of marriage is haram. I was asked the other day about marriage and the importance of marriage and so on. And in Islam, it's a big topic, of course, but in Islam, protecting the lineage is not just so I can know who's his father. There are impacts on that one that impact the children. How are they going to inherit the money? Who is going to marry who? Not everyone can marry everyone. You can't marry your aunt. You can't marry your sister. If it's all messed up and I don't know who the father is, we've got no idea if the person you're going to marry is going to be your sister or your aunt or someone that you shouldn't marry, and so on and so forth. And the position in society. That's why slandering, libeling, talking about your fellow Muslim is haram. You can't do that. I can't, even if it's true. So just because I'm a journalist and I'm right and I want to put a big title and I start saying so-and-so did this sin, that is haram. In fact, the scholars said, if you witness your brother and your sister having a relationship outside of marriage, cover them, protect them. It's not your job to advertise a brother's sin. In fact, you're not even supposed to advertise your own sin. That's. If you've sinned, you don't say, I've done this wrong. No. If Allah has kept it secret, you keep it secret as well. You ask Allah forgiveness. You take your brother on a side, not in front of people, aside, and you tell him, you did this wrong. This is what's supposed to be done. And I'm going to break for next khutbah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي واستغفر الله سبحانه وتعالى. استغفر الله العظيم. استغفر الله العظيم. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah. All thanks and gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salat and salam for Muhammad alayhi salatu wa salam, on his family, on his companions and followers. So we said, al-mal, your finance, your soul or nafs, and what I said, your ard. And then the last two, the deen, protection of the deen, your religion. Hence, there's lots of do's and don'ts to protect you from leaving Islam, to protect you, your belief system from diminishing. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks us about himself, talks us about previous nations. And the final, hifdh al-aql, protection of your mind. And that's a simple one. This is very simple. Anything that affects your mind is haram. That's why khamr is haram. That's why taking anything that would result in your mind going away, so someone snuffing whatever they sniff, and it just gives them that buzz that they have got no idea, that hallucinogenic, that's haram. Not because it's addictive, it's because addictive is another problem. That goes into another category of protecting yourself, but the main thing is that it ruins your mind. And your mind is the most precious thing Allah has bestowed upon you. Without your mind, what differentiates us from an animal? Nothing. We have got a mind that allows us to choose right and wrong. That's why if you choose right, you're elevated higher than the angels themselves. Angels are pure beings that don't do mistakes. Yet we do mistakes, yet we choose to do the right thing. They've got no choice. They've been created that way, pure. We have been created with the will, choose. So, and all Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that He gave the option to all creation to choose the will. Are you going to choose the will or not? And even the mountains, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He even offered it to the mountains. Everyone rejected it. Don't want it. Because there's pros and cons. The pro is that if you follow Allah, you'll go to heaven. If you don't follow Allah, you'll go to hell. No one wants that. Except us and our fellow jinn. Those are the only two species that have given that mind. So the mind is a very important thing. And that's why the very first ayah that was revealed to Sayyidina Muhammad was Iqra. Sayyidina Muhammad was illiterate. Didn't read the notes. Yet the first thing Allah told him, Iqra, learn, read. Our nation, to understand the history of the world when Islam came in, knowledge was only focused in 3 classes in society. This is all society, not just the Arab. All nations, all empires, from the Chinese Empire to the Roman and the Persian Empire. Just 3. The aristocracy, the ruling class, and not even all of them, just the top tier of them. The theologists, the priesthood. And the final one was some traders. Some traders because of the work that they just needed it. The majority was just the first 2. The rest of the masses, completely illiterate. And they were under an iron grip of the first 2 classes. And that explains to you, this understanding history really explains to us how philosophies are generated. When I'm not sure if it was Marx or Karl Marx or Lenin that said religion is the opium of the masses. The reason these guys came up with these things or with these ideas is from what they've seen. The brutal suppression of the population by a ruling class or by a clergy. To the extent you're not even allowed to learn. No, we don't like that. Suddenly, the first thing Allah revealed to Islam is learn. Within 1 or 2 centuries, an explosion of knowledge. An explosion. You look at history, you'll find nothing. The 8th and the 9th century, a huge explosion of knowledge. To the extent that as the Muslimin were trying to calculate inheritance, it became complicated. An 8th, a 6th, it became so complicated that they had to create a science which we now use until this day. It's called algebra. To calculate inheritance. And we use it until now. What is x? If I put a sixth of x equals that. So, replace the x, you find out the value that you want. So, I now haven't talked about, like I promised, I thought it was important to clarify this. Inshallah, next week, inshallah, I'll talk about the major sins and the minor sins. But I thought I'd put a foundation on why and where these sins fall into. They're all, everything you've been forbidden to do, everything you've been told to do is to protect one of these 5 main things. The Sharia itself has put these principles, has put these policies, these processes to protect these 5 things for you so that we can live a good life, a healthy life. No different, and we've reached this conclusion after what? In the 20th century. Just now, there's a couple of frameworks that have been created to make it a science. That was in the 80s actually, 1980s. They created something called the Zachman, and then in the 90s or the 2000s they created something called the TOGAF framework, which talked about principles and standards. After what? After how many years? After 14 centuries, 1,400 years, we started to reach that conclusion. And Allah from day one, He gave it to us straight. We've got a set of principles for humanity, we've got standards, we've got processes for you to live your life. So everything that's been forbidden, everything that's been allowed is so that we can live a good life and that it's not a selfish life, just me, no, me and my fellow community. And that's how we look at it. It's not just about us, it's about us and our brothers. Okay. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم لي لكم فاستغفروا إني داع فأمنوا. Can I do دعاء? Say آمين. اللهم لك الحمد حتى ترضى، اللهم لك الحمد إذا رضيت، اللهم لك الحمد بعد الرضا. اللهم صل وسلم على محمد في الأولين، اللهم صل وسلم على محمد في الآخرين، اللهم صل وسلم على محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. رب ارحم والداي كما ربياني صغارا، رب ارحم والداي كما ربياني صغيرا، رب ارحم والداي كما ربياني صغيرا. سبحانك اللهم إني ظلمت نفسي فاغفر لي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. سبحانك اللهم إني ظلمت نفسي فاغفر لي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. اللهم احفظ إخوانا في الشام وفي فلسطين، اللهم ثبت أقدامهم، اللهم سدد رميهم، اللهم احقن دماءهم، اللهم اشف مرضاهم، اللهم آمن روعاتهم، اللهم احفظ أعراضهم، اللهم أنزل السكينة والطمأنينة على قلوبهم. اللهم يا رب العالمين رد غائبهم إلى أهلهم ردا سليما سالمين غانمين لا خزايا ولا مفتونين. اللهم ادخلنا الفردوس الأعلى في الجنة وارزقنا كل ما يقرب إليها من قول أو عمل، وأجرنا من النار ومن عذاب القبر ومن كل ما يقرب إليهما من قول أو عمل. Oh Allah, guide us to the Jannah and guide us to any act or deed that would take us to Jannah. Oh Allah, protect us from the hellfire and from any act or deed that would make us close to hellfire. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa aqim as-salat. Allah